SBK betting podcast time. Good call. Tom Collins and Ross Millar here to take you through all of this weekend's action and hopefully provide some entertainment, some insight, and a few winners. We hope you're having a great week so far. Just so you know, any prices quoted in this video were live on Friday morning. We are recording this early, as you can tell by the bags under my eyes. So if you're watching this Saturday and the prices aren't the same, that is the reason for that. Friday is obviously the start of the 2025 Breeders' Cup, hence the hat. Has to be given a run out. This is not a Halloween costume. It doesn't fit well, I know, but spent a lot of money on this thing. So it needs to be given a run out this weekend. Right. We're going to begin this video with a quick look back to last week's action. I put up Hawk Mountain, who won the Futurity, a very good price, SP. So did Ross, to be fair, albeit he said no bet. We did agree on the race, as well as both of us putting up Give It To Me OJ, who Ross actually said was virtually a certainty, which is risky. And I know it was a short price favourite, but we've been in this game long enough to know that you don't use that word. Ross, well done for using it with Give It To Me OJ. He won pretty cosily at the line.
He did. Just jump in the last. I was starting to get a bit twitchy. I mean, for my own financial investment, which was, I backed him as if I thought he was a certainty, and more so for the eggs that were going to come flying if he invariably got turned over at a short price. But I just think probably through the race it didn't suit him massively, and his class got him home. I think he's a good horse. He's going to find things tougher now, isn't he? That's sort of the last age or all age race he can go for. But he's clearly got a big engine, and the Moors know how to train a good horse.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there was ever really a moment of danger, but it did develop into a bit of a sprint. So when that happens, usually it's a relatively close finish. Just a quick word on the Futurity. Hawk Mountain won well. I thought his stamina showed through in the latter part of the race on that ground. Benvenuto Cellini won for next year, definitely, over that trip on quicker conditions. Did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the ground did for Benvenuto Cellini, didn't it? As we thought it might. Hawk Mountain looked really good. They've got that, and then you throw in Pierre Bernard as well. They've got three really nice horses for middle distances next year, and I mean, every 2-year-old you hope is going to improve, particularly with the bigger, stronger staying types. You can get a huge differential in how they develop through the winter. So yeah, I'd be interested to see how they go, because I think the middle distance looks very open next year.
Yeah, for sure. Aidan O'Brien obviously holding all the aces right now, but he generally does. Such as their breeding operation at Coolmore, he always has these very good young horses coming through the ranks. I actually think Hawk Mountain will be good over a mile and a half. Quite a few people on social media, analysts and punters as well, think he's more of a 10 furlong horse. But to me, visually, he'll stay a mile and a half. So let's see how he progresses. Obviously, the two other horses mentioned there, including Pierre Bernard, have a lot of upside too. So a long winter ahead where we'll be deciphering who's at the top of Aidan O'Brien's pecking order. Right, on to matters at hand then, and this weekend's action, the preview, which everyone has clicked this video for. SBK has a 20% multiples boost on Saturday. That is the big offer this weekend. It's on UK Racing. If you like doing multiples, accumulators, whatnot, do them with SBK. You'll get a bigger return for exactly the same bet you would place elsewhere. T's and C's do apply. Go check out the promo on the app and the website. 3 feature races to bring you then. We're going to start with the West Yorkshire Hurdle. This race is going to be run at 2:22 at Wetherby. Just the 5 runners, but some classy sorts in here. Strong Leader is your current favourite, around 7-4. Potter's Charm, maybe the up-and-comer in this division, 2-1. Then Take No Chances, 9-2. Winter Fog, 7-1. And Doddy the Great at 11s. Ross, who do you like?
I like Strong Leader, TC. I mean, I think he's the obvious one for more than the couple of reasons. I mean, first you have to mention the form of his trainer and his jockey. 42% strike rate for Ollie Murphy in the last 14 days. Absolutely flying. Sean Bowen still rattling along, 29%. He won on his return last year, so that's a tick in the box at this time of the year. We're often sort of trying to guess how ready these horses are going to be. Won the long distance at Newbury. Perhaps wasn't the deepest of races, but he did it very nicely. And he is significantly better on a flat track, and he's significantly better when he's got time between his races. And I think they've realised that for a while, and I think they hoped it wasn't the case, and they sort of tried to turn him into a Cheltenham stayers horse, and he's just not. So I think he'd be ready to go here, and he's got a mark of 157, and that sets the standard. Potter's Charm is the one I struggle with, and I don't quite get the hype about him. You look at what he's done on the bare form. Yes, he's won races, but he won the Formby. Good race to win up at Aintree, the old Tolworth when it used to be at Sandown. But he beat Miami Magic by 2 lengths. Miami Magic's 138. Then they said they were going to go straight to the Cheltenham Festival. And this is a frustration of mine with the Tristan Davis yard. They don't seem to be able to resist trying to grab a pot, which I suppose for your owners is a great thing. But more often than not, it doesn't come off because the plan you made is the plan you should stick to. They went to try and nick a grade 2 at Cheltenham, and that's their phrase, not mine. And they ended up getting turned over around about 8 lengths by 6 Mile Bridge. Okay, they were giving him £5, but he's only 142 rated. And then they were beaten 20 odd lengths in the Turners. And perhaps they'll say that the yard weren't in scintillating form. He ran below himself a little bit because they'd sneaked in that extra run. But he's got a mark of 145. He gets £3. That puts him on 148. I think you could reasonably argue that 145 perhaps flatters him. Yeah, he's open to plenty of improvement. He goes up in trip. He's had a wind up. They clearly think he's a really high class horse, but I'm not sure that he deserves to be as close in the betting to Strong Leader, so that draws me to Strong Leader further. The one I'd just throw in that could just be the fly in the ointment if Strong Leader is not quite at it, I think, is Winter Fog. He was fourth in Champion Stairs at Punchestown, where he didn't look to fully stay the trip there, but that's a stiffer track than Wetherby, and he was around about 8 lengths behind Tihupu. He's fit off the flat. He won a 2 mile maiden at Tremor. He finished ninth in the Cesarewitch. He's rated 150. And he gets £6. So of the dangers, I think he's the bigger danger because I don't think the Skelton horse will stay. But Strong Leader, I think, has compelling claims.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm with Strong Leader as well. He has an excellent record when fresh. And he has the proven stamina over 3 miles, which both Potter's Charm and Take No Chances don't have, as you've already said. Strong Leader's record after breaks of 50 days or longer read 1-2-1-0, which was a really below par performance when last at 10, 1-1-2. So he's extremely good first time up. Just to simplify that, he's 4 from 7. After a break of 50 days or more. And this seems just a great spot to me. I agree that this is kind of the play. He's the solid option in the race. There are others in here who could improve past him, but they're short enough prices. So I think we're in agreement with Strong Leader in the West Yorkshire Hurdle to kick ourselves off. We'll move swiftly on then to the Grade 2 Charlie Hall Chase. This is going to be run at 2:57, again at Wetherby, the next race on the card after the West Yorkshire Hurdle. The favourite in here is Protectorat for Dan Skelton, who, I quote, says, "We will have him ready for this race." There are 2 targets this year for him. This is the first of them. He's 5-2, and in my opinion, the horse to beat. Then you have Hewick, Picdorhe, who is strangely going left-handed, in my opinion. J-Lo, the Real Whacker, and Garlaw. That's in betting order. Ross, I'm going to go first here just because I'm going to be pretty boring. I'm going to put up Protectorat. I think he's the horse to beat in this race. If he's fit, which it sounds like he is, Dan Skelton wouldn't say that if he wasn't because of handicap reasons. Then I think he takes all the beating. This is early season target. He appeals to me more than any other horse in this race. He's been placed in Grade 1 company recently. And this trip is no problem, as we saw early in his career. Do you agree or not?
Yeah, I do agree. Although if I was Dan Skelton and I was trying to play poker with his favourite friend, Mr. Handicapper, who didn't bite on unexpected party after last week, I think I would perhaps say I've got him as fit as I can get him. He's ready to go, and then if I wanted to, perhaps turn in a below par effort and hold my hands up and say, no, that's him. He's as fit as he could be. I have spent more time than I care to admit on this race because I feel like it's a sort of race you should be able to find the winner. Small field, loads about them. I think it's really difficult. Protectorat, Picdorhe, and the Real Whacker, I think, are going to ensure there's a real strong pace because Protectorat goes forward. He's a strong traveller, always like that on his first run as well. He can race quite exuberantly. Picdorhe's only got one way of going, and that's from the front. I agree with you. Going left-handed is a question mark, but he was going to absolutely hose up at Newbury when falling 3 out as a novice. So maybe it's just that the races have come at Ascot and just not happened to come left-handed. So there'd be a real pace burn up. Picdorhe, I think he'll stay 3 miles on an easy track, but I don't think Wetherby's an easy track. It's a sharp track, but it's a long way from home turning in. You have to stay. And I think if Protectorat is geared up and this is one of his Gold Cups, Harry Skelton for certain will engage Harry Cobden as early as he can turning in and really try and draw the sting and get Picdorhe off the bridle, because I don't think he's that tough off the bridle. The Real Whacker's going to go forward as well, and he stays well. This is undoubtedly his Gold Cup because he won it last year. Form tailed off afterwards, so he's going to be ready. So of those 3, Protectorat, Picdorhe, and Real Whacker, I would see that Protectorat's going to be the strongest stair of those and keep on galloping resolutely. I was tempted by him, but Dan Skelton 13% strike rate doesn't sort of suggest that they're absolutely hitting their straps. And then I looked at Jello and Hewick, who I think will both be suited by a strong pace up front. Jello was absolutely devastating in the Peterborough last year, just ran away from them turning and going right-handed, beat Protectorat, who didn't cope with the right-handed track, not for the first time, and Protectorat then got the better of him at Windsor in that good race. But Jello and a number of Venetia Williams horses didn't run particularly well that weekend, and they felt that they maybe just picked up a bit of a chill travelling there. And then Jello went and won the Denman, stayed really well over 3 miles. Again, a weak enough sort of race for the grade. And then Hewitt, King George winner, fit from the hurdles. He'll stay well. His jumping has got to be good enough to keep him in contention. I just wouldn't want to see him get too far back. But I think of everything, he'll come home strongest, and he's definitely fit. So having really looked hard at it, I'm not convinced, but Hewitt is where I'm thinking I'll go, because just think he's got a class angle. He's definitely going to be fit, and he'll come home really strongly. And I could just see a scenario where Protectorat, Pictory, and the Real Whacker take each other on a bit too much, and the place collapses a bit late on, and we almost get a bit of a rerun of that King George that Hewitt won. So after all that, I'm coming down on the old boy Hewitt.
Don't remind me of that King George. I still have nightmares when the Hendo horse fell in the home straight. But okay, we disagree here. Hewitt for Ross and Protectorat for myself. It sounds like neither of us are overly confident in this race. But obviously, as we say week in, week out, these feature race previews, they're not always races we are going to bet in. These are just the feature races that we want to give you a heads up on. It's likely that you guys are going to watch this rather than the 8 o'clock at Wolverhampton, for example. So we talk about these races in greater detail and then provide a token selection. Sometimes we like them. Sometimes they are just the most logical horses in our mind in those races. Right. Final race preview. This is the big one, I suppose, this weekend for all that the Charlie Hall is interesting. The Sodexo Gold Cup at Ascot, 3:45 p.m. Pretty deep renewal, I thought. Competitive market as well. For all that the changing man has actually been really well punted in the anti-post market. It's into 7-2 favouritism right now. Ross, do you like him, or are you going to be going for a horse at a bigger price? I thought the value was gone on this favourite.
Yeah, he gets punted every time, doesn't he, TC? People must be reading the form lines different to me, because I don't think he screams out as being massively well handicapped off this current mark. And if you think he's well handicapped, then Snipe, who's £9 better off for 2 lengths from Doncaster last year, is definitely well handicapped. You could maybe argue he's a bit regressive. The other thing I just would point out with Tizard runners, 4% strike rate for the last 14 days. Now, I don't think that's a massive concern for Joe Tizard, because I think there's definitely been a sort of shift from when he took over the full license from his father, that they didn't want to be seen as November, December merchants, and he wanted to try and keep his horses form a little bit deeper into the season. And in order to do that, you have to build them along a little bit more slowly. But at whatever he is, 7-2, 4-1, I could definitely watch him win if that's going to be the case. I thought Neon Moon was really interesting. He's £2 lower than his last winning mark. He won on his seasonal return last year. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him go well. But again, David Pike, 9% strike rate, didn't sort of bolster me with confidence. It's a massive negative, but I was looking for something to really sort of grab onto. And the one I grabbed onto is Blow Your Wad for Tom Lacey, who's going along at 25% strike rate. He is definitely a classy horse. He won the Grade 2 Pendle 2 seasons ago. Was really gritty in the finish there, then had a bit of time off and returned. He finished lame in the manifesto, had some time off, came back last year, only managed to get 2 runs in. One at Kempton, where he looked like a horse having a return after a layoff. He didn't jump all that fluently, but he stayed on quite nicely in the closing stages, although he never threatened. And then at Cheltenham in April, on ground that which sort of suited him better, he again stayed on really well up the hill into 5th. Looked like a horse who's going to appreciate a step up to 3 miles. They do that straight off the bat. I think he's hard to say he's well handicapped off 142 on all levels of form. That looks about his mark, but it just struck me as sort of horse that could find plenty more improvement now going up to 3 miles, and the yard has started really well.
Yeah, blow your wad then for Ross. This horse has been subject to market move. I didn't see this. 12-1 into 8-1. Would that put you off at all? Is there a certain price limit that you wouldn't go below, considering it hasn't run for 200 days?
Yeah, sort of 6-1 was sort of where I would cap it at. I mean, I have to admit some of that 12-1 might have been me, because I thought he was exceptional value at that price. But in a handicap of this nature, where certainly early on, where we just don't quite know, who's going to be fully primed to go, I thought a classy horse from a yard that was going along at a good strike rate, where I could see an angle that he might improve for 3 miles. He made plenty of appeal.
Blow your wad then for Ross in the featured, in my opinion, Sodexo Gold Cup this weekend. I'm going to be with Neon Moon, who ran a great third in this race 12 months ago. He shaped really well, I thought, that day, just beaten by a better horse. No excuses, but Chianti Classico was in a different league to him. Nevertheless, he jumped well. He was in a good rhythm. The front three pulled clear. He was among that group. And I thought this race may be the target again in the early season for Neon Moon. David Pipes had a couple of winners already this campaign, which is good because his yard can be very in and out when it comes to form. And also, I thought the ground would be absolutely spot on for him when it necessarily wouldn't be for others. So I'll take Neon Moon in the Sodexo Gold Cup. It's a very competitive race. If you have an opinion, you're probably going to get paid out if the horse runs top three, purely because the prices on everything, apart from the favourite in here, look pretty generous to my eye. Right then, Napa next best time. Ross, you're up to the plate. Apparently, this is all that matters in these podcasts. It's not, guys.
Yeah, and if you dare utter that you're not mad keen on your Napa next best, heaven forbid. For what it's worth, I do like this Napa next best. There was plenty I could have picked from. I hope I've picked the right two. The 205 is the Nap General Madrano 205 at Ascot, I should say. I still think there's room for a big improvement of this mark of 140. He won at Newbury last year off a mark of 131. That's no big deal. But I very rarely lay horses. I laid him on that occasion because he had finished absolutely out on his feet at Haydock 7 days before when finishing runner-up. The two pulled a mile clear up the home straight that day, typical Haydock round, and he barely walked over the line. And I just thought, I couldn't believe Emma Lavelle ran him. Maybe should have paid notice that Emma Lavelle's not a dope and she wouldn't have run him if he wasn't right. But I couldn't believe what he did off a mark of 131. And he then should have won at Doncaster later on in the season off a mark of 141. Ben Jones got to the front far too soon, which, Ben Jones has a habit of doing. He's a very positive rider, and sometimes it looks great, and sometimes it doesn't pay off. It's one of those occasions where I was shouting at the TV. But in hindsight, he was trying to give £16 to Petit Tonnerre, who ran him down. Petit Tonnerre is now 137 horse. Definitely room for improvement of this horse's mark of 140, because his form tailed off in the spring, but so did Emma Lavelle's form. Couldn't be more different now. 25% strike rate. She's absolutely rattling along. Ben Jones on board, so I know he's a big fan of the SBK podcast and a big fan of mine. Just take your time, Ben. Don't go too soon. I think he's got plenty more to come this season. And then the next best comes at Ayr up in Scotland. The Nicky Richards, Danny McMenamin ridden Ruby Island. She had pretty good hurdle form for Mark Walford. Moved to Nicky Richards after a little layoff and built really slowly last year. Ran some really nice races without perhaps sort of showing everything. And then she won at Ayr over 2 mile 4 on soft ground. Soft ground does suit her quite well. But she returned, made a debut over fences at Carlisle and finished a length and a half behind Push the Button, who's a 135 rated horse of Mark Wolford's, who I think is going to do some good things over fences this year because that was over 2 miles. She jumped really well. She was quite exuberant through the early stages, so that run should have taken the edge off her. Because of the rules of the handicap chases, or the novice chase, I should say, not handicaps, the novice chases, her mark couldn't be moved for getting within lengths of a higher rated horse. Lines up here off 118. She jumped really well. Fairly quick turnaround of just about 2 weeks, but she'll like the soft ground. She's got 2 of her 4 wins have come at Ayr. I thought there's plenty to like.
Ross's nap then, General Madrano in the 205 at Ascot, and his next best is Ruby Island in the 340 at Ayr. No next best to me this week, as you can imagine. My focus is firmly on the Breeders' Cup for all that I have looked at the ITV races, including the race previews that we've already done. I don't love the jumps racing this weekend, so just one more selection. It's going to be my nap for the podcast, and it's going to be Revelance, not Relevant, Revelance, who runs in the 217 at Newmarket. This horse just owes me because I actually tipped her on this podcast 4 weeks ago when she ran at Wolverhampton. She opened at 2-1. She went off at 4-6. She should have been a good thing. She ran third. I think she's way better than that. Maybe she just didn't perform on the weather that day. Her best form going into that race was on turf. So I'm willing to give her a little bit of a pass, but I want the money back this time. Looking for compensation here. Rafe Beckett does very well this time of year, especially with runners that he sends to Newmarket in October and November. So I'm hopeful that she'll bounce back. Her run at York, 2 starts back, by when she finished behind Rhapsody in second, is definitely the best piece of form. She just needs to get back to that level, which I hope she will, albeit I would have preferred a little bit more dig in the ground. But Revelance in the 217 at Newmarket is the only other horse in the UK that I'm interested in. Now, before we sign off, obviously a quick word here is due for the Breeders' Cup. 14 phenomenal races, stretching 2 days, Friday and Saturday. 5 juvenile 2-year-old races on Friday evening at Del Mar. 9 races for the older horses on Saturday. They are the better races. Saturday is a phenomenal day. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, racing days of the whole year. Looking at Friday's action, Aidan O'Brien will be hoping to add to his tally. Right now, he has 25 Group 1 victories this season. His best in his whole career is 28, which is a record, obviously. He's looking to break through and make that 29. So he needs 4 Group 4/Grade 1 winners this weekend. He has great chances on Friday. He has Precise, he has Gestad, he has True Love, he has Brussels, lots of chances. So I think Aidan will get at least one on the board on Friday, maybe just one. But Saturday, his main chance is Mini Hawk, who goes in the Breeders' Cup Turf. She faces off against Rebels Romance in what is going to be a cracking renewal of that race. For all that Rebels Romance is in stall 1, both of these horses have a phenomenal record so far and are extremely talented. The main race on Saturday is the Classic. This is what everyone's been looking forward to. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the shine has been scrubbed off because Sovereignty is unable to go. He has been a phenomenal racehorse this year. My favourite racehorse in training. Fortunately, he spiked a fever earlier this week, so he's unable to race, and that completely changes the complexion of this market. The favourite is now Sierra Leone, who won this race last year, but only one horse, in the past has ever won this race back to back, and that is Tisnow in 2000 and 2001. So the question is, can Sierra Leone kind of create history? I don't think so. He's got every chance, but he's a horse that needs everything to go his way, and that type is not for me at a short price. You have Mind Frame, Fierceness, both for Todd Pletcher, Journalism, the 3-year-old who's run behind Sovereignty several times this year, and Japanese challenger Forever Young in this race. And I like Forever Young. He finished 3rd in this contest last year from stall 1, now draws better in stall 5, and hopefully he can provide Japan with a huge race success. They've been waiting to win this Classic as well as the Arc. Hopefully they can tick one off their tally on Saturday evening. Don't miss it. It's great racing. Even if you don't necessarily love US racing, the Breeders' Cup shouldn't be missed because of the European interest.
TC,
SBK,
before you jump on to your wrap out,
yeah,
I've got 2 questions for you about the Breeders' Cup because I did watch it last year and I
yeah,
quite enjoyed it. Juvenile Fillies Turf, Precise is drawn out quite wide.
yeah.
Is she going to overcome that? I thought Queen of Hawaii was quite interesting for Joseph O'Brien, drawn in because she'll go forward, and I think she's got some pretty decent form. So, first question, do you agree with that? And then probably the more interesting question for people watching: Christophe Soumillon riding for Coolmore because Ryan's obviously injured. I think we've sort of been told, by him in no certain terms, not to question his ability stepping in for Ryan. He's done really well in Europe. I can't, and I'm not a Breeders' Cup sort of heavy duty watcher, but I don't think he's had that many rides as he in the Breeders' Cup. Certainly not as many as Ryan. Is that a concern that just the very different nature of Breeders' Cup or American racing is going to be difficult for him to adapt to?
Yeah, I suppose it is a concern because Ryan Moore is A1 when he goes over to the US. I mean, that ride on Auguste Rodin last year was one of the best rides I've ever seen, scooting up the inside and winning. Comparing Christophe to Ryan generally has not really worked out in anyone's favour this year because everyone thought Christophe would struggle to emulate what Ryan has done, and he's come in and kind of taken the bull by the horns. Over in the US, it's going to be a different story. He's going to need to be at his best. You know what? To win races, especially at grade 1 level over in the US, you need to take opportunities during the run. So if a gap opens, you take it. If a horse needs to swing wide, you have to go and make that move. You can't wait for other horses to move out of your way. So I think if Christophe is proactive, then he'll be absolutely fine. And regarding the draw with Precise, I think she'll be okay because she has a huge class edge. With Gestad, maybe not because he's out in 14 in his race, Precise in 13. Gestad doesn't have that much of a class edge for me. He could definitely go and win, but I would be concerned about the draw. Also, stepping up in distance is just not ideal. If he finds himself going forward early, or at least mid-pack, he may be 4 or 5 wide, and that's just the red zone. You do not want to be out there. So it'll be interesting to see how the draw plays out. But look, even if Christophe has to take back in a few races on the turf, I actually prefer closers, so it wouldn't be a concern for me. Just a note, by the way, SBK has a 20% winnings boost on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf on Friday evening. If you're watching this prior to that race, then take advantage of the offer. There's also a 20% winnings boost on the Turf Sprint on Saturday. We have some horses in there, including Arizona Blaze for Ammo Racing. So huge news if you like Breeders' Cup action. Two 20% winning boost offers from SBK. And also, Ross, there is a 20% winnings boost on the Melbourne Cup on Tuesday morning. Aussie fans assemble. Do you have an opinion here?
No, I mean, you'll find stronger and better opinions than mine, TC, on Australian racing. But, I mean, I like Al Riffa. I think he's got plenty of weight. I'm disappointed that they've changed jockeys, but that's a petulant thing to be concerned about. Two at prices that I probably will have an interesting bet on. Sayati Sadati, who's moved to Australia now with Kieran Meyer. He sort of plugged on in the Derby. I think he finished 5th or 6th for Andrew Balding, the Derby of 2 years ago. But interesting, the Dan won over 1 mile and 6. So I thought that was an interesting. He's a huge price, and perhaps a more interesting and perhaps more compelling claims, but still at a double figure prices. One smooth operator for Brian Ellison, who won I think it was the Geelong Cup last year as a launch into this, was quite well touted, and then just got absolutely mullered. Didn't have a great passage through, and then got mullered in his run, turning in. Of course, you need some luck, and he comes from the back, but I still thought he was pretty interesting, and he won his prep race again last week.
Interesting then. Look, you cannot say that the SBK betting podcast doesn't equate for every person out there. We have racing over jumps we've talked about. I've given you a flat selection at Newmarket for domestic fans. We've got Breeders' Cup thoughts and we've got Melbourne Cup thoughts. This podcast has had everything. And by the way, Sayadati Sadati, for anyone that cares, in Arabic means ladies and gentlemen. I learned that when I was in Riyadh. So there you go. One more thing to mention this weekend, and that's the two offers that I've already said for the Breeders' Cup and the Melbourne Cup. Then you've got the SBK winnings boost for multiples, 20% multiples boost in UK racing on Saturday. T's and C's apply. And also new customers. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you doing? New SBK customers get £40 in free bets when they sign up and bet their first £10. T's and C's apply, but go and get those £40 in free bets. It's very much worth it. Please do like this video down below if you enjoyed it. Hopefully you did, as we have covered a lot. Subscribe to SBK so that you can watch these podcasts moving forward. You can maybe see this hat in 12 months' time, which I know you're dying to see. Also, Ross's Millar's Movers goes up every single week for the jump season, which is fantastic. If you haven't watched that yet, go and watch this after this video is finished. And Ross and I went to Christian Williams' yard, and it's out now. The Stable Tour / jump season preview, more of a jump season preview, but there is talk and visuals of Christian's horses, including Deep Cave, who Ross sat on. So go and check that out because it's worth watching. Just for this, the videography, the pictures and images that we saw down in South Wales were phenomenal. Ross, quickly, have you recovered yet?
Do you know what? The legs were a touch sore on Tuesday, and the left shoulder, which was sort of what stopped my competing. That I had to get the cookies off the jar with the right arm on Tuesday. The left arm wouldn't reach, but no, I've really enjoyed it, and I think I've bored anyone that sort of I've talked to about it. Much hilarity has to be pointed out from some eventing friends that sort of watched it, who then found it very amusing that I was given the baby reins with the different colours as to where you should hold them. That's been very popular in a couple of WhatsApp groups, sort of taking the mickey out of me.
Go and watch that video, guys. It's well worth it, as well as Miller's Movers. Go do that now. Set aside an hour of your time, half an hour on each. They're worth watching, I promise you. Right, best of luck this weekend with any selections you have, whether they be in the UK, US, or maybe even Australia on Tuesday morning. Have a great weekend. Hopefully we will too, and provide plenty of winners on this podcast. We'll see you again in 7 days' time. Ross maybe a little bit earlier on Miller's Movers. Goodbye.